The rolling chassis of a 1978 Lotus Esprit Series 2. The whole frame weighs less than 60 kilos, that's 125 pounds, and that's what big lumps cut out of it by non-believers. It's a featherweight of folded sheet metal and tubular space frame genius, and with the engine, transaxle and fiberglass body shell providing extra structural support, it was just stiff enough to make for a car that was universally praised for its handling. Yeah, shocker. It wore a Lotus badge. Anyway, it's in such poor condition that I wonder why I ever dared attempt to restore it, and I've gone grey over a few years of on-off metalwork and fettling that I poured into this chassis. So do go back and check out all the Esprit goodness, but it's now almost ready for its final coat of paint. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I unwittingly stumbled onto the emotional roller coaster that is making a bent chassis live again. What I was flexing for was a once-over rub of the whole chassis to key the second full coat of two-part epoxy primer that I just put on it for a tough top coat of satin black urethane. I can think of things more fun to do than go over a whole Lotus Esprit chassis with a scotch pad, but I was using the thought that it would be the last time I'd have to prepare it for paint to muster energy for the job. After that, the fun would start. I'd get to begin building the rolling chassis back up from the floor, literally, but the lads Gar and Si at Delta Auto Body were in my ear.
If you don't make the effort now, you're gonna regret it.
If you don't do it, you're a dickhead.
All corners cut add up to a shit job.
You're a dickhead. Oscar's my dog.
Far as the lads were concerned, you know, the bodywork and paint lads, the chassis should be skimmed with a thin film of filler, rubbed flat, then built up with 3 coats of finishing primer, and then flatted back again so that when the top coat is applied, it looks smooth. It looks like a nice job. I don't agree. Lightweight should be prioritised before good looks, but there were 3 small areas I did want to skim: the plug welds I'd made in the T-section at the front, and the 2 spots where I'd had to butt weld in new sheet metal to repair the lump someone had cut out of the backbone. So I asked Si to come up and give me a refresher in filler application. I'm always rushing, trying to stay ahead of the filler going off, and always making a mess because of it. Si went slow and smooth all the way and flat out told me, once the filler goes off, work from the edges on all these small sections. It was the schooling I needed to get my head around using filler, and it got me addicted. Damn it. That's a lesson in how the camera can be very kind and very unforgiving. Some things look better than they are, and some worse. And I suppose if you reminded me that I had said I didn't want a lot of filler unnecessarily clogging up the metalwork here. At this point, I was telling myself that most of what I'd applied, I had then sanded off. I had filled a lot more than I wanted to, and in the most frustrating way, I now wish I had filled more. But I moved on to making sure the intersections where I had welded had the best chance they possibly could. This is the moment I realised something wasn't right. I'd been struggling to get paint out of the gun and progress had almost ground to a halt, so I called Gar, who got a great laugh out of having to tell me to turn the compressor on. He then had to dump a lot of material down over where I'd been spraying to try and salvage the job. You see, blowing a dusting of paint over a surface in a warm environment like this means the particles dry quickly and proud. The paint doesn't have time or volume enough to flow into itself and form a gloss, so you can get a finish like sandpaper. Luckily, I got away with it, but my spray booth game needs a lot of practice. The cool thing about this last coat of epoxy primer is that the paint has a 5-day window before it's chemically cured. That means theoretically you can spray something over it without having to key it if you do it in that time. But as Gar said, we won't leave it that long. Overnight though, at least. So I went back upstairs to do some classic fluting about. I think orange is one of the Esprit's best colours, but I think the orange suits an S1 better than an S2. Red has never been my thing, and black is a bit too serious. I'm leaning towards green, but the right green on a car, that's a difficult call. Forgive the shaky camera work, but I had to capture this. When I asked Gar to eyeball my primer job for consistency, he wanted more material on the front of the frame. He said it'd be tricky for anyone, as he turned the fan knob all the way in so the gun shot the narrowest of spots and deftly laid a savage coat of primer from a distance, weaving through the metalwork like it was a walk in the park. Yeah! false end. I thought this was going to be the last scene in the video and was preparing the floor for the arrival of what I hope will be a beautiful black restored chassis. But I made an 11th hour executive decision to try for an early start on episode release day and get the chassis finished on time. Now I'm late, so happy St. Patrick's Day to me, stuck indoors editing. In the early hours, with a flick of guide coat, I started into the hard yards, the final flatting before paint. Screen left is part of the backbone where I welded in new metal. I was surprised at how easily an imperfection can occur, but each dark speck is a small dimple in the primer, and if I want a perfect finish they all need to go. If it's not obvious, screen right is where the 45-year-old original metal starts. And this is the big loop in the roller coaster. I want to restore this car to the best of my ability. That doesn't mean it has to be perfect, just that I tried. And that's how the lads got under my skin, the whole "you'll regret not doing as much as you can" bit. But a shiny chassis in a way is an obsessive thing, and no one will ever see underneath this Lotus again while I'm around. Still, I went for it, and because I was conflicted about whether a chassis should be shiny or not, I approached each step reluctantly. And now I'm struggling with the fact that I'll have to lean in even further to get it as good as I can get it. What you've just seen me flat down will have to be gone over again. It'll be lovely, and I'll be glad once it's done, but flip, it's a lot of work. My hands got some miles on them this last couple of weeks. So next time, first thing you're going to see is this thing being painted black. No more sanding or prep. At the same time, I've some pressing work to do on the Sprinter camper, so I'll bring you an exciting episode on that, and then we'll start building a Lotus Esprit rolling chassis. I'll play you out with a darling of a 205 GTI you might have spotted in the wings last video. It's a beautiful thing with a deserving owner who's pampering it well. If you haven't already, subscribe and make yourself count by turning on all notifications. Hit the like switch and drop me a line if you've something to say. There's a spree video backstory and a big teardown job happening behind the scenes with my modern classic daily driver for patrons. If you want a piece of that action, or just want to support these videos, visit my webpage linked in the description. Thanks to new patrons Malcolm Emerson, Tom Edwards, Tris, Stuart Frearson, Steve Lyle, Michael Barrett, Andy Zimmerman, Rome Sadeghi, Ulrich, Ian Turner, Claude Melhouse, Steve Gurney and Brett Newman. That's it for this one. Until next time, keep yourself stuck into whatever you're working on. Good luck.